This is the very cookie that I bought at the Woodworkers Workshop Open Day from a company called Dalman UK. I'll put a link to them below. Now, I seriously underestimated the amount of work involved in working with a cookie, a slab, a live edge cookies such as this. Can't think of a better word. An immense amount of work. The flattening, the cleaning up of the live edge, digging out all of the bark and all of the soft timber, immense amount of work. And my respect for the people that work with this type of wood every day, all day, every day, has seriously gone up. Utmost respect for those chaps and chapesses. Now, I've dabbled with epoxy resin in the past. I say dabbled, I've really just played. I've made a couple of tiny small tables and used a little bit of it for filling voids and cracks. And I've had a modicum of success. I've had leaks and stepped up my game a little bit. I wouldn't say I've been hugely successful, but as yet I've not had a disaster. So I really hope this isn't going to be. But I'm going to take a few more steps than I did before. But this is actually my first mistake again, because I've set my caulking bead too far away from the hole. So all of that void underneath that board, which is covered in release tape, is going to fill. When you buy the resin, when I buy resin, I make sure I buy the right amount for the depth of void or the depth of pour that I'm going to do, so that it takes longer to go off and doesn't overheat and cracks. It's exothermic reaction, as you well know, I suspect. The downside of that is it takes so long to go off. So this process took over a week because I filled it, it drained away underneath to fill that void that I just mentioned, and then I filled it again, and then I filled it again. But I didn't want to overfill it to begin with because I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to leak out all over the bench and my brand new clamping extension rails. So yeah, over a week waiting for resin to dry, not being able to use the workshop in all that time. And then of course you come to the bit where it's all gone off. You've waited for an entire lifetime, it feels like, and then you've got to pop the board off to see just how bad it is underneath. And okay, I was pretty chuffed with that. Not an awful lot of leakage, or rather not an awful lot of damage and waste to clear up. I've said before, self-praise is no praise, but this router sled is superb. Not my own design, not entirely anyway, the extension's my design, obviously. Hopefully you've seen that video, but it runs so well on the bearings, absolutely brilliant. So that's the top sorted for the minute. On to the base. It was my intention from the get-go to use a log that I've got outside that I thought I could secure this top to, but the closer I got to using the log, the more I realised that the log diameter of the log was just too small, and the coffee table would have been so easy to tip. I think it would have just fallen over, and we'd have had coffee everywhere. I know, God forbid, heinous thought, spilt coffee. Anyway, moving on. So what I've decided to do is to make or try and simulate a log, a single central column that supports the coffee table. And this is the solution that I've come up with. I'm using some European oak, some brown oak. Finish thickness ended up around 46 mil. And I've taken the circumference of the circle, 360 degrees, and divided it by 30. And the reason I came to 30 was because of an awful lot of math that really hurt my head. It took me ages to work this out. I didn't realise I was quite that thick, but obviously I am. To cut a very long and painful story short, if you've got a piece of timber that's around 45-50 mil wide and you put them all around in a circle, you're going to get something that ends up around 450 mil diameter, which was about what I wanted. So I won't go into the real painful way I got there, but that's where I got to. So 360 divided by 30 equals 12, so 6-degree cut on each piece. Now this little jig that I've made, if you can call it that, is because when I cut the second side, the 6 degrees on the second side of each piece, I was worried about it slipping under the gap under the fence. So this is literally just to stop that. So each one of the 30 pieces gets run through the saw twice. So I've got a 6-degree angle on each side. And then each one of the 30 pieces gets 4 domino slots. And I'm using the tiniest dominoes here, the 4 mil thick dominoes, and they're literally just for alignment and to help me with the glue up, which gave me considerable concern as well. I used Type Bond 3, waterproof, excellent adhesive, but very little working time. So I've got about 20 minutes to get it all glued together, which, like I say, was a bit of a concern, which meant the dry fit, even though it was a very long-winded affair, was absolutely vital and allowed me to work out the best way to get all the pieces put together. And while I'm doing it, to think about which bit I'm going to glue and when. So the dry fit, as you can see, went together extremely well, to the point where I thought, well, let's just have one more cup of coffee and then we'll bite the bullet and we'll get the glue out and we'll go for it.
Are you ready on the pushy?
Now, if you're wondering what the pushy is, I had to explain to my dearest what we were about to attempt and what I'd like her to do. So, in order to avoid too much boring terminology, or so I'm informed, we came to the conclusion that I would do the squirty and the brushy and the stabby, and then she would do the pushy and I would do the knocky. And after spending all of that time, I'm now going to distress it to some extent, destroy it a little bit with the turbo plane. Incredible bit of kit, extremely aggressive though, so if you get one of those, be really careful, and you need the white knuckle grip of death on the angle grinder or the turbo plane device that they make if you're going to use one, because as you can see, the slightest touch and it just eats the wood. But perfect for the look I'm going for, kind of a, I don't want to say simulated log, but I wanted that log beaten, weathered look and feel to it. So I thought I'd burn it. And I must say, I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. I've not done an awful lot of blackening or charring of timber before, but on brown oak, European oak, it definitely works extremely well. I did start trying to measure to get the base central in the middle of the cookie, but it's so irregularly shaped. I thought the best way I can approach this is to eyeball it, hence climbing on the bench with admittedly a couple of old man grunts chucked in for good measure. So a little recess for the base to slot into. like a stocking to a man's nose. So with that slotted into that little groove, a modicum of adhesive and a few screws, I think it'll be good. And will hopefully stay the test of time. And this is just to make sure that edge is smooth and break that corner. You've heard me say before, get rid of the sharp corners, but ever so gently. I didn't want to overdo it and make it look like I'd been there with the sander. I wanted the more weather-beaten, natural look as much as possible, with a lump of epoxy resin in the middle. And then for these little cracks on the edge, I wanted to fill them with something, but the thought of going through the epoxy resin palaver again was too much for me, so I've elected to go with sawdust and superfine cyano, thin cyano. And I've discovered that if you put the sawdust in first and then a layer of fine sawdust over the top, the cyano goes off almost instantly. You can sand it, well, there you go, straight away. It does always darken though, and I couldn't think of any other way to fill the voids without it darkening. As if I use clear epoxy on these, then outside in the sunlight the UV is going to yellow out. I'd like to think that it adds to the country feel of the piece. Again, just gently breaking that top edge, making sure that side is nice and smooth. Now this finish I've had in the shed for a long time. Yacht varnish and teak oil. It is fantastic. It cost me an arm and a leg. It was about 30-40 quid for that little tin, but superb finish. Takes forever to go off as well. And this is the first of 3 coats. I think I'll get away with 3. The top may well need a little bit more to seal because it's soaking it up like a witch's soaking thing. But brings out the colour absolutely beautiful. It's certainly going to be a pleasure to rest one's morning coffee on a surface such as this. I'm sure you'll agree.